Hello. Welcome back to another Kajabi Fireside Chat. I am very honored to be joined today by, I'm going to say, the Kajabi Dream Team. We won't tell Ahad, but you guys are the top people at Kajabi. Allie, Steph, and Tabish, welcome to our very cool panel discussion. I'm going to get you to do really quick intros in a sec, but first, we got to do a little celebration because $10 billion! Woo! That is one incredible achievement. It's pretty awesome. How are you guys feeling about hitting $10 million in creator revenue?
Great.
So good.
Everyone.
It's crazy. It's so wild. I feel like we were just at 9. I think it was 5 months ago we announced that. Yeah.
Oh, it is. I still remember getting the 5 million badge, or maybe the 6 million. I can't remember it. It doesn't even seem like very long ago that it was that. So to keep like growing is incredible. Now, I got lots of questions today. I miss question. I always have questions. But if you have questions, please do let us know in the chat. And if you are a small, even teeny tiny part of that $10 billion, give yourself a high five and let us know. Let us know if you are watching, if you are part of that 10 billion, because that is a celebration of every Kajabi user. And I'm excited that I'm a little part of that as well. But we're going to do some introductions in case, on the off chance, people watching do not know who these beautiful Kajabi team members are. Allie, we're going to start with you. You are like one of the first Kajabi employees, but tell us
I don't know
your
about
role
that.
now, because every time I talk to you, it's like you have a different role, but now it's pretty epic.
Oh, thank you. Well, yes, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having us, Sue. You've been a longtime partner and advocate for Kajabi, and we're just so grateful and thankful for all you do for our community and for Kajabi Heroes. My name is Allie. I'm the VP of Marketing at Kajabi, and I have been here in June, I hit 8 years, which is wild. I think there were about 30 employees when I joined, so definitely was not the first one, but I was the first female hire on marketing.
Woo!
And I'm very proud of that accomplishment. So happy to be here.
Excellent. Steph, what is your role? I feel like it keeps getting longer every time I look you up on LinkedIn.
I'm Steph. I'm the VP of Commerce here at Kajabi. So I have the incredible privilege of looking after the teams that work behind the scenes on everything to do with offer, checkout, creator revenue at Kajabi.
Awesome. I love it. We love making more money through Kajabi. So I bet you were especially proud to see that $10 million mark.
Oh, yes. We watch it. We look at it every single day. So we knew it was coming up. It was a huge celebration moment internally.
Do you have like a big TV in the corner with a ticker like YouTube streamers?
Kind of, we do. We have like the online version of that, and you can't see it. I actually do have a TV in the corner over here that I watch the numbers every single day at my home. So we are all very
nerdy heart is so happy.
Steph and I had a bet going when we were going to hit the 10 billion.
Okay, who won?
Steph did.
On brand.
Yeah. Excellent. And Tabish, what is your role at Kajabi?
Yeah, Sue, thank you for having me and for having us. So my name is Tabish. Folks call me Tab. I lead our growth team here at Kajabi, and growth is just a fancy way of saying that a lot of my responsibility is working with Allie and figuring out how we bring new creators to the platform, and then working closely with like the rest of our product team, so Steph included, and figuring out how we get those new creators and heroes on our platform to make money and actually be successful and contribute towards that $10 billion goal.
Yes. Oh my gosh, who's got a bet on when you're going to hit 20 billion? We should play some bets. Oh, do you reckon? Oh, I'm going to say before the end of 2027, 6. I don't know. I mean, 2026 is pretty ambitious, but it'll be blessed before
we do love an ambitious goal.
I'm sure. Yes. Okay. So talking about 10 billion, like I said, it feels like just yesterday that it was 5 billion and 6 and 9, and it's going up really fast. Like it feels like it's really accelerating, like the time to hit each goal. But is that also reflecting what you are seeing in the wider creator economy?
Yes. So I think like It has gone a lot faster. The progression from 5 to 10 was really quick, and we're obviously stoked to be celebrating that. And a lot of that has to do with creators. A lot of the times aren't just starting their businesses, they're scaling their businesses, and they're scaling the businesses on Kajabi. So we're watching people come in with like a simple idea, maybe a single course, then they turn it into a full-blown business company with teams, multiple offerings, communities. So that $10 billion is really a reflection of not just new creators coming into this economy, but the existing creators scaling and scaling really big on Kajabi. So it's, as much as we talk about it being like a Kajabi milestone, like it's just proof that the economy is maturing and that the creators are building those very serious, sustainable businesses on Kajabi.
Yeah, that is awesome, because there's heaps of analytics that come out that just talk about this, like growth. Like every time I see someone mentioning the studies on the future value of the creator economy, it just seems to be getting bigger and bigger. So it's really nice to see that being reflected. How do you think that the way creators make money has changed over the last decade? Because in 2015, like it would have been so rare and unusual for anyone that to have even been making money online in this way. So how do you see things have changed? Tabish, I'm going to throw this one to you.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because it's fascinating just to see how not only how things have changed, but how fast things have changed. Like if folks remember like the old school ways of like some of these things are still around, like MCNs, like multi-channel networks on YouTube that you'd partner with to effectively like get a rev share on like advertising based models and things like that. The way that I've always thought about it is that in the past, I think creators relied on audience-based models to earn money. So think about like ad revenue or influencer marketing, brand deals, things like that. And what we're seeing now is actually folks are moving towards more like product-based approaches. And what I mean by that is people creating their own like digital products, creating their own sort of like revenue streams and income streams with their own audience. So whether that's like coaching or communities, online courses, and going direct to their audience in getting them to sell them that value, as opposed to going through just this like audience-based model. And I think that's really fascinating, because at the end of the day, like these are diversified revenue streams. These are diversified income streams. And I think that's really what's helping creators dial in on sustainable income revenue sources to become businesses.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the word sustainable, you just make my heart happy, because it's one of the most important things. And I think it's the danger with relying on that kind of brand deal, YouTube view, Instagram view type of revenue is, when you are in control of your audience, then, that's what allows you to create that sustainability. But, there are some things that I think people might still be getting challenged with in 2025. But Allie, I'm going to give this one to you. What do you think that creators might still be getting wrong about making money in 2025? Is it just relying on those social channels, or are you seeing other things that people could improve on?
Yeah, totally. I'll give you two things because I have to be an overachiever. And Tab kind of touched on a little bit of this. I think we just released this report when we announced 10 billion, and we gave a bunch of data within our 10 billion landing page to talk about how creators are building business, to kind of start to shed light on some of the common misconceptions that we see. And one of those is that we see people claim that in order to make a substantial, sustainable revenue stream, you have to have massive audiences, which might be true if you're relying on, YouTube AdSense to make all of your revenue, or brand deals, where brands will pay you more for the more eyeballs that you get. But it's not true when it comes to launching digital products. And so in the report that we released, we actually saw on aggregate across all of our creators making money, creators who make revenue on Kajabi are not only have social followings of about 1,000 to 10,000 followers, they also have email list sizes. This is for a six-figure earner, by the way. They have email list sizes of about 4,000, and they have about 300 on average paying customers. And if you look at those numbers and take a step back, it's actually really not that large. It's so doable for the average creator to think about that funnel and think about, okay, in order to have a six-figure business, I need to grow, to 1,000 to 10,000 followers, 4,000 people on my email list, and about 300 paying customers. It just kind of breaks it down in a way that's much more tangible for creators. So I think misconception number one is I have to have a large audience. It's just fundamentally not true. And then the second one kind of goes hand in hand with that, is that I see creators, and this is much more so like the newer creators in the field and in the industry who are just starting and dabbling in content creation, who don't understand the importance of audience ownership. And what that tactically means is that they don't understand that they need an email list. And anytime I talk to any creator, I'm like, the one thing you have to take away from what it means to own your audience is start building an email list. Start taking people from your social channels and moving them into a space that you own where you can contact them at any given point and you can share the news and information about what you're building. An email list is key, and I don't think that creators fully recognize the importance of that right now.
I 100% agree. I'm in Malaysia right now, and I met someone last week, and her sister has, surprised her entire family and quit her career and went on TikTok. And she's got 450,000 followers on TikTok. She's like just bought a car, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, you're doing so well." And I was like, being me, I was like, "Oh wow, have you got an email list?" And they were both like, "What's that?" Like, no idea. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, please." And I was like, "We're on holiday, resist the urge to educate on holiday." But I think it's a really common thing. Like, I think it's when you start to get that growth in one place, it's so important for sustainability to make sure that you are getting that ownership, as you said. So definitely email. We love email. It's so important. All right. So a lot of people came into this world during COVID, and there was a massive shift to online education during that COVID period, growth for everyone. And there was kind of this boom of online courses. But what are the biggest changes that you've seen since that COVID boom? Because obviously that was, the big COVID thing, and now we're moving into different models. Steph, how have you seen creators changing since that and what they're doing towards the future?
Yeah, it's a good question. And interestingly, I joined Kajabi at the start of 2020. So right as like the pandemic hit. So I got to like be in that environment very deeply, seeing what was going on. And look, online courses weren't a new thing as a result of COVID. Like those were big far before the pandemic. But what the pandemic did is it created this like perfect storm in this economy where people needed to, whether it was like replacing lost income, turning their physical business into an online business. Like there was this level of grit and urgency during that time that you can't easily replicate that in more normal times. So like post late 2021, things have been more stable in the sense of we're seeing people where it's a little bit more dabbling now and less of this like do or die energy of I need to make this work. Like everything is depending on it. So the challenge is now is when we look at these different groups of creators, the ones who are actually thriving still are those who keep that level of grit up and like alive in what they're doing. So they're showing up consistently. They're treating their business like it's a business. And while courses are still huge, there's just a shift now with how they're expanding their business, pairing it with other types of offers, whether that's shifting their pricing models to more like membership subscription based offerings or even what it is. So whether it's communities offering premium coaching, like we're seeing people who are in this day in, day out thinking about being a creator past this concept that was very 2020 and earlier of like passive income courses. You set it up once and it keeps scaling. I think the demand is much higher now that the creator economy is so much bigger and the consumers who are purchasing from creators demand a much higher bar now than they probably did during like those previous eras. So I think the trick now is making sure creators have that grit and keep the energy really high at a time where it's easy to kind of let it go a little bit and then keep those audiences, like their audience, really engaged, because that audience being engaged is going to be what drives their revenue. And then also doing that through diversity of their offerings.
Yeah, I love diversity. It's so key. But with AI kind of dominating the world, where I'm seeing, and I don't know if you guys are seeing, a move towards more like connection, personal related stuff, because information is kind of getting easier and easier. Like ChatGPT, you can put questions straight in, perhaps rather than going through a course like people would have done in the past. So Tab, I'm going to ask you this. What role do you think that community is playing now and will play into the future? And how do you think that that is going to evolve in an ever AI-ified world?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I talked about this earlier this year at a conference that both Allie and I were at in Dubai as well, is that as you get more of these AI tools and like content creation, like the cost of content creation becomes like goes to like near zero, the value of authenticity, as you've called out to, becomes invaluable. And it's crazy because you're seeing more and more people want that authentic, meaningful, deep connection. And a lot of that comes through from building those deep, meaningful relationships with like your community in a setting that is like built for that environment, or that is like safe for your audience to engage with you. And that doesn't necessarily always happen on like social media. It happens in a much more intimate setting. And I actually think like that's where community is going to really start shining. It's not going to be like a one talking head at like 100 people. It's going to be like one person engaging with like 50 or 100 or 200 people that are invested in like what they're building. And honestly, at the end of the day, like what they're talking about, because like I think a creator's biggest value proposition is not necessarily always the content that they're selling, but themselves as a brand. And so I actually think community offers not only creators, but their audiences an opportunity to deeply connect with like each other and form those meaningful connections, especially in an age where people are becoming or feeling a little bit more disconnected because of like just the, for lack of a better word, slopification of content that exists like on the internet right now. So I do think like that's actually where community is going to become a lot more invaluable, and just like forming those creation like connections and how those connections are being formed.
Yeah, because you cannot replace you. Like, you know, you is the essence, and especially having creator businesses, like we are kind of the business. And if you try and outsource you to AI tools and you just try and make everything passive, it's just really missing the opportunity to connect. And that's, you know, like you said, where the future is going to be. All right, a question for, this is an open, whoever wants to take this one. What types of products do you see the most successful creators selling, and has that changed in the last few years? Is it big high ticket offers? Is it micro products? Is it memberships? Is it courses? Is it a combo? Is it that there is no one thing? Because that's my theory. And what do you see for the future?
It's a good question. I'll start first on this one. I think that you are correct. There is no one product. And I think that it obviously depends on each creator's business, because they are all incredibly unique depending on what it is that they have to offer, their audience, their industry, all of those factors. But there has been a massive shift away from just having courses only. It's been one of the most obvious things that we've seen in most recent years. And when we think about like premium price point, it's when things like coaching are layered in. And I think the introduction of coaching can be a little bit different depending on the creator's model. Like if it's in like, if their industry is like corporate coaching or something like that, and they've already got a name for themselves, they would probably start in obviously corporate coaching and then expand from there and maybe offer a lower ticket community later. Or it could flip the other direction where they start with a moderate audience and a community to get them engaged, and then upsell them in to something like coaching that then also has a like course that runs alongside it. So I think those three are probably the ones that, a combination of those three tend to be probably the more popular ones that we see as far as like driving revenue. And when those three are put together, like the average transaction values, the offer prices, like all of those just go up when you combine those three together. I've seen really cool implementation of like downloads as well, but I would say that those three are probably the ones that are, when you combine those together in the right setting, are the most powerful. But Tab, what do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna just like plus one to Steph's comment on like the types of products. I think the thing that's interesting, in addition to the types of products, is also the pricing strategies people use to further supplement that. Like in Kajabi as well, you can have like a free offer, you can have a one-time payment, you can have a payment plan, or you can have a subscription, like a recurring payment. And I think the different products combined with the different offers effectively creates a portfolio of like offers and products that you can give to your audience at different points in their buyer journey. You might have a like audience member who wants to be part of your community on a recurring basis, and after they've engaged with you enough, might actually want a one-on-one call with you, or they might want to take like a course from you. And so I think it's interesting to understand like what deeply resonates for your own audience, because it's very rarely, especially in this day and age, just like a one size fits all, and it is some combination of all of those.
I'll also just
Yeah.
add from a marketing perspective, I think that creators are getting really smart about kind of what we just talked about with the question around AI, and thinking about like, how do I stand out or diversify? And one of the things that I see them leaning into is this idea that community is almost like adds perceived value outside of the things that the creator can offer, because when they get members of their community together and they have shared experiences and shared thoughts and opinions, then those community members start to create connections that are beyond what the creator is actually even providing. And so from a marketing perspective, it just becomes really interesting because you're building value through things that you're not even yourself providing. And so I see a huge shift in creators wanting to move that direction, especially as content and information becomes more accessible.
Totally. And I can see Shane in
Yeah.
the chat talking about that like they stay for the community. And I think that's where we see folks be really successful with like recurring membership offerings. It's quite challenging these days to have a subscription for a course only, because the individual student is so isolated and can like lose engagement, where you combine that with a community where the community, to Allie's point, helps keep everybody accountable along the journey. They keep the conversation going. It really helps with your pricing structure, your pricing model, by having the right products offered in there.
Yeah, and also with a community, there's less stress on you to create content. Like a lot of community is you showing up as you and just sort of bringing people together. It's, being just who you are is one of the most important elements. And sometimes I think people get scared to do that because they're like, but I have to be a marketer and I have to sell and I have to be a course creator. It's like, no, you can just be you and you can just bring people together and you can have a fun online party and there's, value in that. All right, so if you had to bet on one trend that you see increasing or on the move in the creator economy over the next few years, what do you think it is? Is it like doubling down on something that's already there? Is it kind of new things that you're seeing coming through? Who wants to go first? Tabish is thinking. He's got a thinking face on.
It's funny because I can still go first. It's hard because I think there's a couple different things. One, obviously, that I think like we've talked about a lot is like going direct to your audience, like building like diversified revenue streams and things like that. I actually think we talked about this internally more recently now of like social media is an and, not an or. And I actually think this idea of like platforms out there trying to replace different social media platforms, I don't think is the right strategy. I actually think people do, if you're a creator, the things that people enjoy are creating content. And you create content on platforms that give you the eyeballs and the reach and the audience, but that's not necessarily where you build your business. And I think that's where like Kajabi as a platform kind of comes in. So to me, the trend that I'm seeing is like creators are becoming smarter about where they get money and where they get eyeballs. And how they utilize both of those effectively is what will actually help them get to a point where they're up leveling their like business and like their brand. I actually don't think like somebody who completely deplatforms all of social media and goes all in on revenue streams is going to be able to build a sustainable revenue streams. At the same time, I don't think somebody who's just building on social media is going to be able to build a sustainable business. So I actually think the really smart creators are realizing that there's trends across different platforms that are powering their business, and what that looks like is ultimately, or how they leverage that is ultimately going to help them realize what they need for their business to succeed.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off Tab a little bit on that one. I think in combination with that, one of the trends that I think is going to be making a big comeback is affiliate programs. So I think a lot of creators are going to lean back into that with the additive of socials to basically leverage their audience that they've got and their existing customer base to sell for them. So I think the concept of affiliate marketing is going to get a little bit of a rebrand in the creator economy outside of brand deals that is going to create the ability for creators to scale faster instead of relying on like paid ads, for example. They will be having other creators potentially doing that work for them through socials.
I also think this is kind of like a I wouldn't call it a hot take, but like a different take. That I was just talking to this journalist about the idea of, which we haven't done a lot of exploring at Kajabi, is like how do brands fit into digital products? And like, what's the future of that type of collaboration? Because obviously, right now, brands know how to approach creators on social platforms to do brand deals and to advertise and to get in front of large audiences. But what does the future of this industry look like for creators to allow brands into their private spaces where they have communities and courses and coaching and membership, and where their best, most engaged customers are? Or on the flip side, what does it look like for brands to actually cultivate those types of spaces for their own communities? So again, we haven't done a lot of like deliberate marketing in that space, or we don't necessarily speak to brands right now, but I do find it very interesting of like, where do these kind of converge in the future?
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I agree on the affiliate marketing side of things. As someone who has affiliates and is an affiliate of beautiful Kajabi, it's just such a solid business model. Like, you get paid when you do the work. And if you're someone who's paying affiliates, then you pay them once they've brought you a paid customer, not paying money for Facebook ads and really hoping that it works. So very interesting. I like it. I like it. All right, we're going to go something different. What do you think is something from another completely unrelated and different industry, not creator economy, that you think creators could borrow to give themselves a bit of an edge?
Okay, so you did pre-warn me on this question, so I was able to think on it for a minute. So the one that I decided on, because I went around on a few different ones here, I went with the restaurant industry, oddly enough. So the reason I think that the restaurant industry is really interesting is there's a lot of diversity in that industry, from whether it's quick drive-throughs to fine dining, whatever it may be. And I do think that creators need to think the same way when it comes to experience. One thing that I think the restaurant industry does really well is servicing their customers and the experience, from driving by their restaurant to the moment that you were welcome, to seated, to service, etc. I think that those types of really highly curated experiences for customers, from how they discover you right to the very end, those touch points are so important. And that's how you can really lean in on repeat purchases with people as well, and how they get them coming back again. And the more you intentionally craft those touch points and get that feeling amazing, the more you can charge very premium prices, like fine dining. Like, there are people who will pay hundreds of dollars a person to go sit in a restaurant. And why do they do that? And it's not always just because the food is better, because we have many options of where to eat. I think it's because of the experience and the feeling, everything from how it smells to how the temperature is to how your like waiter interacts with you. I think that industry does such a good job on the experience front. And I think creators at times can be really focused on getting leads through in the beginning, but can sometimes forget about like them after their first purchase and what it feels like, and maybe not even looking at their own consumer experience. Like, when was the last time as a creator did somebody like go in as a student themselves and see what it was like to take the course? So I think that's really something where creators could take a cue from the restaurant industry, and maybe they need to introduce their own mystery shopper program to see what it feels like to be on the other side.
Oh my gosh, that is like my number one tip for all businesses. Like, be your own customer. It's so vital. Or get someone else who doesn't know you to be your customer is also really helpful. But it's also interesting that you say about the restaurant industry, because I think it also, if you look at the restaurant industry, it's about knowing your customer and knowing what type of business. Are you a fine dining business, or are you a quick, like fast takeaway, and making sure that your offers are positioned appropriately for the audience, because you're going to market completely differently if you're a fast food, or a food truck versus if you are a fine dining. And I think that's, where people can really take that to their own business. Like, it's okay to do like low ticket and fast purchases if that's your business model. And it's okay to do the, high touch, high ticket if that's your business model, but make sure it's in alignment and it matches.
Correct. And like, you can be a great drive-through business, but you still want the drive-through to feel like a good experience. I think we've all had bad drive-through experiences. So it doesn't have to be that you're fine dining, but like, you still want to focus on the experience that matches what you're trying to reach.
And that's the relationship piece of it, right? That's building up relationships so your customers buy again. Because if a customer has a good experience, they're going to buy something else, or they're going to stay in your subscription membership.
Right? You want to make
So-
sure, I don't know how well this joke lands internationally, but you want to make sure the soft serve machine is always working. Like,
Oh, don't go to McDonald's then. Yeah.
Internationally relevant joke. I love it. I love it. Okay, Allie, I'm going to give this one to you. Have you seen a creator turn a small or unusual or really different idea into a big revenue driver?
Absolutely. So I always
Okay.
have this catchphrase at Kajabi that if you can think it, it's probably on the platform, because there are obviously the big industries and niches. We have, health and fitness, personal finance, business, personal development. Those are our big kind of three categories, I guess you could call them, that generate a lot of creator revenue. But then we also have this like long tail of just like the most interesting random niches that you would never think could make anyone a profitable business, and yet we have creators making 6, 7, sometimes even 8 figures doing that. And so it's really exciting to see to me, because I think, going back to like Steph's restaurant analogy, it just means that there is something for everyone. And if there is an online community around a specific topic, then there probably could be a digital product associated with that. Or if there is a physical product industry for a specific niche, there's probably a digital product version of that. And so I really love these like interesting stories of creators. Like, we have a guy who teaches mushroom foraging. We have a husband and wife duo who they have a 7-figure business on Kajabi, and they were event planners, and now they teach people how to create balloon arches, which like is so niche to me, but they have such a great business around it. And it's because they're experts. They have authority in the space. They were event planners for years. They can go deeper than just balloon arches, but that's how they get people in. So it's really, really fascinating to see. And then we also have industries that, like, I don't know, Steph and Tab, if you want to touch on this too, but like industries that are like much more professional, like verticals as well. Like, we have a lot of dentists on Kajabi who like teach other dentists specific practices, or like it's almost like continued education, but through the lens of an expert who can teach you that knowledge firsthand.
Totally. Like, I was just chatting with a creator that specializes in teaching folks who work at optometrists how to sell glasses frames. Like,
cool.
It's so cool. We have like, these little pockets within industries, like whether it's fitness or medical, and there's just some incredible creators out there that see an opportunity and want to teach on it.
And I think the biggest like indicator for me as to whether or not, your industry or your subject matter is going to be successful on Kajabi, the one thing that you need to test is, do people ask you how to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And that pretty much is your answer as to whether or not it would sell. So like, for example, I've been trying to get my mom to launch a Kajabi community for years. And she was a teacher for 35 years at an elementary school. And every single teacher that she interacts with in her in her school district asked her how she put on classroom plays in her 2nd grade classroom, because they don't know how to do that. And they thought it was awesome curriculum. And my mom did an annual classroom play, and it was a smash. And I keep telling my mom, if you have 100 teachers asking you how to do this, you have an audience that is ready to pay you to help them solve this problem of learning this thing. And so if you're unsure as to whether or not your niche would, or like the thing that you know about would sell, ask yourself if people have asked you how to do it before. And if the answer is yes, then I think you have a digital product on your hands.
And not only that, if you love it, then win-win.
Yeah,
like
totally.
That is how I got into Kajabi. I was in Digital Course Academy 2019, and I became the Kajabi expert for fun because I was procrastinating building my course, and then ended up, teaching people Kajabi. So there you go. Like, look at what you love doing and what people are asking you questions about. Perfect combination. All right, Tab, have you got any thoughts before we move on to the next question?
No, I think Allie and Steph like covered it pretty well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. All right. What is one thing that is like the thing everyone follows, the big, everyone teaches you how to do this in the creator space, but you think it's had its time and it needs to be retired? and put your guesses in the comments as to what you think is the thing that everyone's been taught forever. I'm curious to what you think it might be. Steph, I know what your answer is going to be, but I would love to know what is the thing that you think has had its time, and we're moving on in 2025 and beyond.
Such a spicy question. And I think that one of the things with creators, particularly those that have been around for quite some time and been very successful, I can see Eve's already tapped into it, how to launch. I think there was a lot of energy in the early days around these one or two like giant launches and having these overly complicated funnels and these wait lists that would last for months and months and months. And I think that worked at a time where the industry wasn't so oversaturated with content. I think the way everything is now, particularly with AI in the mix, is people are looking to learn and get answers immediately. So although they might be in your audience and a huge fan of you, there is less. We are seeing that wait lists aren't converting like they used to. Although you might still get a decent amount of people signing up to a wait list, they're not converting how they used to, because folks just won't wait around for you anymore. They will go find someone who will make that type of content accessible immediately for them. So we're certainly seeing a trend with creators that maybe only do those once or twice a year and do not have an evergreen offering available, not growing as fast as those who are evolving their offers. Yes, they still have some maybe key launches around some cohorts or group training or things like that, but they have other offers out there all the time. They're doing it in a way where some folks are even doing, I know you spoke with Laura the other week, like they're introducing like a shopping cart. They're putting their content online for people to be able to peruse and shop it because they want it immediately. So this concept of everything needs to be through funnels with artificial countdown timers and flashing red buttons and landing pages that scroll for an eternity with bright colors is just not the way that people are wanting to shop in this modern world. They're wanting like clear value, simple checkout pages, availability immediately versus like artificial FOMO, pent up energy that just doesn't seem to be the trend with how folks are shopping. But I know that's a hot take because there's a lot of how to launch out there. So I'm glad at least Eve picked up on that.
There is, and I think that launches can still have their place, like you said.
Absolutely.
But I think it's more that there was that trend sort of from probably 2015 to 2020, 21, where it was like one big launch a year and creators would spend 6 months trying to build up their audience. But then you were also hinging a lot on that. You're hinging probably half of your annual revenue on a 1 week period. And, I saw a lot of people getting very, very stressed when those launches didn't perform because you've got so much pressure on such a short time frame. So I think launches can be almost like the icing on the cake. And, as long as you've got that sustainability through the year, then the launches can be that massive, bonus cash flow boost rather than what your business relies on. Because if you got 6 months between launches, those last few months, it's like when you used to be a uni student and you're scraping till payday, like buying ramen. When, 6 months earlier, you made hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like I've seen it happen.
Yeah, the other thing I'll call out too, which we've seen, is folks not updating their content year to year. So they will run the same launch like 2, 3, 4, 5+ years in a row and not have something new in the offering. And I think the staleness of that is really starting to come out in the last 18 to 24 months. So we're seeing there being a trend with those that are growing, even with the launches, putting other things in them. So we've obviously mentioned community a million times because it's such a good one to keep folks engaged, but adding a community into it, potentially even adding like downloadables, just something else that gives it a fresh look. I think the days of, and I know some people really love this, that image that shows the devices. You all know what I'm talking about. You all know what I'm talking about here.
The mock-ups.
The mock-ups. I think the days of that being like the thing on your sales page is definitely moving away as folks are looking to better understand truly what's included outside of like literally showing like course pages on a desktop and an iPad and a mobile phone.
Yeah. I also think like
accessibility. Sorry.
No,
Sorry,
I was just going to say, we talk a lot about at Kajabi, like our mission is to help ambitious creators become successful entrepreneurs. And when I think about that a lot, like I think a lot of times creators forget that they are building businesses, and they need to think of themselves like a business. And so, like, I don't know, I think about it for our own industry and our own business. Tabish, Steph, and I probably wouldn't have a job if we only did one launch a year. And like that would be crazy to hinge all of our bets on one campaign. And so like think about how any other large scale, even though we're maybe in a different industry or vertical or whatever than creators are, I think look at other large scale businesses that are doing things in a successful way, how they market, how they continue to upsell their customers, how they, you know, think about retention and churn. And you can learn a lot from these really big businesses, even if they're not the exact one-to-one match of what you're doing. And I think the more creators can think like a business owner and treat their business as that, and the less they treat it just like a creator content business, the more successful they'll be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is awesome. Also, what you're saying, Steph, about updating content is accessibility of content, making sure that your content is available. Like for me, I won't take a course if it doesn't have a podcast version because I don't want to sit down and watch videos. I want to listen while I'm out walking or doing something else. So, you know, think about the ways that people are consuming your course. Some people might want to read them. So having transcripts available, you know, adding captions to your videos, just, you know, making that content accessible to different people, I think is also really important. And in the past, you probably could have got away with just slapping some videos up. Not anymore, I don't think. All right. I got a question from Eve. I'm going to put this one up so I don't forget it at the end. Do you see heroes selling to professional audiences rather than, you know, to customers, you know, to corporates, etc., doing anything in common, you know, maybe different compared to direct to consumer businesses?
Ooh. I've got a yes on that. While Allie, I can see Allie thinking. I would say because there's sometimes, if I think particularly around those like in medical, for example, they are usually focused on a smaller audience. So their craft and their quality is often a lot higher. So because they're not trying to get to the masses, we'll see them, and they are dealing with professionals. This isn't someone just trying to do like a low ticket weekly fitness course. This is like learning for your profession. I think it demands quality. So we see the quality of the content, whether that is like video content, audio content, visuals with downloadables, like workbooks and things like that. They tend to be quite leveled up in the quality of them because the nature of doing those more high ticket B2B transactions within these highly regulated regions like demands that. Like it doesn't, there's less like cuteness and fluffiness, I would say, to the content. It's like, it is like very tight and professional.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is a like necessarily different, I don't know, this is more just an example. We have a creator who has their business is called Movement Genius, and they have mental health resources for artists and creators. And they do something really interesting where they not only sell to the masses, they sell, you know, a very, very accessible, like I think it's like $9 a month community space for artists who need mental health resources and, you know, a lot of different videos and types of content all packaged up into a community. But what I thought was really smart that they do is they have, I don't know, I think like 900 hours worth of content packaged up within their community. And it's really, really, really high quality. So on top of selling it to the masses, to the individual artists who would consume the content, they also package up their content and bulk license it to businesses who might want to use it in their own trainings or as a additional resource. And they just create separate products for those people inside of Kajabi, but using all the same content that they give to their artists and the individual consumers. So it's a little bit of that like hybrid approach where they're not only selling to the direct consumer, but they're also selling to businesses who serve the direct consumer.
Oh, that's a really interesting model. It just goes to show, like if you can dream it, there is like, and if you can dream a way of doing it that maybe doesn't exist now, like there's so much possibility still ahead. I feel, and I don't know if you guys agree, that we are still in the beginning of what's possible in terms of online education. You got thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's accurate. I was going to say, yeah, like I definitely think we're just scratching the surface here. One of the reasons that I've always taken a bet on the creator economy, and I've talked about this prior as well, is like three main things. For me, one is we're getting for lack of a better word, we're getting more and more connected, but also more and more disconnected. And I think people are searching for more authentic pieces of connection and content. The second thing is people's purchasing power is increasing. Like as folks are like more globalization is happening, as like folks are getting access to more opportunities, better opportunities, people's purchasing power is increasing. And like, I think the last piece is, I think people are creating content in a way that's very authentic. Like we have technology that's actually sort of hastening people's access to content, especially with like some of the AI stuff. Again, like that marginal cost of content creation is going to zero. So more people are able to express themselves in a way that wasn't possible in the past. And so all of these things are actually laying the foundation for an industry and an economy that's actually like growing and burgeoning, because that's where people's attention and sort of like value is like going.
Yeah. How do you see AI and automation shaping the way that creators build and even sell in the next few years? And what do you think the risks are? I mean, we've talked a bit about, you know, these, what was it, the slopification of, of content. but how do you see AI and the creator economy in the future?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting, right? Like if we go back to how we define the creators that are, as Ali mentioned, like Kajabi's mission of helping ambitious creators become successful entrepreneurs. If you think about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship in and of itself is a very lonely journey. Like you do that by yourself, you're kind of in the trenches all alone, you're solving through a bunch of different problems. Where AI really shines is serving as kind of your like partner and like your like voice and your support system. And that's kind of where I think like a lot of like the AI tooling becomes valuable. I actually don't think it can replace you, but what it can do is amplify the work that you're doing and like how you're thinking about your business and how you're thinking about just like your content and like what you're creating and what's resonating with your audiences. I think where AI becomes a lot more valuable is how it synthesizes data that you get. And like, especially like the world we're in is like, it's all data. Everybody here is familiar with impressions, CPM, clicks, CPC, cost per clicks, CPA, like you're living, breathing all of that stuff. On top of that, you have sentiment scores, you have your like view counts, you have like your conversion rate, your like funnel metrics. All of that stuff is all data that candidly is hard for a single human to synthesize by themselves. And I think that's where this like co-pilot, a sort of like business partner in AI becomes really valuable, because you can actually just go to it and be like, hey, I have all these different funnels, I have all these different audiences, what am I missing, right? And these are my hypotheses, like where should I be focusing? And it works with you in understanding like where are the sort of opportunities. So it frees up your time to actually go and do the thing that you're really, really, really good at, which is creating amazing content and actually connecting with your audience. And so I think like that's a little bit of where I see the nuance of where AI becomes really valuable and like an amplifier. I don't think it's a replacement. And I think if you're using AI to just sort of replace who you are and like create content in a way that doesn't feel authentic, that's where you're gonna miss out on some of those like opportunities that exist and really miss the value for what like AI is offering to the world right now.
Yeah, Deanna just had a great point about seeing a lot of entrepreneurs offering AI tools as part of their digital product offering, which I find is really interesting. But I would love to know where Kajabi like is bringing AI into things for us, tools. Like, can you tell us what is the future of Kajabi and AI?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think there's like a variety of things that like we're working on right now. As I mentioned, like we're thinking about things on like the AI like co-pilot side and effectively serving as like a business partner. We actually had like a couple experiments we ran within like our offer creation wizard experience, which recommended people like certain like prices that they should like pick based on the industry that they're in, based on their like audiences, based on the products and like the pricing strategies they're selecting. That's just like one very like small example of the things that we're working on. I think what we envision is almost like a business partner that's like helping you understand how to craft your message, your tone, build like help you build like landing pages and like what that looks like. And I think like that's really the direction like where we're headed. But I think at a very high level, like those are the things that we're working on. I don't have anything extremely like super like tactical to share at the moment, but we do have a lot of things, exciting stuff in the works right now that I'm excited to hopefully like unveil like soon.
Good to know it's on the agenda. I look forward to seeing what's coming. All right, last question. And if you have got any questions before we end, time to get them in the chat now if you haven't already. I'm going to start with you, Allie, then we'll do Steph and then Tab. If you were a brand new creator starting a creative business today, but you have the knowledge of everything you know from working at Kajabi and all the insight and all the information that you have, what would you build first?
Oh, this is such a hard question. I like wrestle with it so much because if I knew, I wouldn't be working at Kajabi. I'd be making a lot of money and contributing to 10 billion, and it would be awesome. But honestly, I think what I would do is I think I would start building on social, and I would like pretty much immediately. And at the same time as me building my audience on social, I would, going back to my first point of the whole conversation, I would create an automation using like a comment to DM feature to actually get people into my email list and start having building that in tandem with my social. So no matter how large my social grows, I would always have that baked right in. And then I think I would probably launch a community. And the reason why is I always talk about this idea that I think that, you know, Steph and Tab have all the data points behind what's working well and why creators should do, you know, community versus course or vice versa. My perspective is like maybe a little bit more personality driven, meaning like as a creator, I think you should decide what fits you best in your lifestyle. And so for me, I am much better at on the fly, engaging, having deep, meaningful connections and conversations. I am not very good at preparing ahead of time. And so I think a course, but I totally prepared for this, I swear. But I think a course is a lot harder to build for someone like me, who you have to be very thoughtful, you have to outline, you have to create content that is really meaningful and impactful. And I'd want to make sure that it was incredibly valuable for people. And so for my personality and for the type of content that I think I would be comfortable creating, I think a community would fit my lifestyle a lot better. And I just like the idea of getting people together that have shared values and a shared goal, and being able to talk around that. So that's my long-winded way of saying building an email list and building a community.
I totally hear you, Allie. I think that's such an important point, is to build not just what, you know, you think your customers want. You've got to make it work for you. And if you struggle to create content, but doing stuff live is easy for you, lean into that. Like lean into what is easy and what fits your personality. It's so crucial. So yeah, Steph, you're on the spot. What are you going to build? What are you going to build?
And I'm going to somewhat steal Allie's, like I don't know, I love working with creators. I don't know if I ever want to be one myself. So similar thing. We get asked this all the time. I have no idea what industry I would go into. But as far as like the model, I think that I would, opposite to Allie, I probably wouldn't start on socials. I am like very private with my like personal socials. I don't think I've posted on Instagram in over 10 years. It's just not my thing, but I'm on there all the time looking at everyone else's stuff. I think I would probably lean more into like a little bit more of like that B2B, like coaching, very tight community, one-on-one. I would probably go into an understanding that some of that is maybe not the easiest to scale when you're in coaching, but knowing me as a person and what would fit my lifestyle, I would be okay with that, because I think for me, I can't see me doing a whole lot of social media content, but I would still, if I had a passion for something, want to teach it and getting out there, but probably in more closed settings. So I think private community, limited coaching would probably be where I would go.
Okay, interesting. And for anyone else who's maybe in Steph's boat, who is antisocial and doesn't want to be on socials, it's just such a perfect example. Like Allie would want to build something which was thriving and busy and fun, and Steph's like, no, give me small. And so that's where you could both be really successful. And through doing coaching and working with people one-on-one, that might spur ideas, because you'll see a lot of things through those coaching calls over time where you're like, man, like 3/4 of the people that come to me have the same problem. Maybe that could be a course or some content that I could create. So, All right, Tab, where are you sitting on this introvert, extrovert, social, not social line? What are you building?
I was gonna say I'm gonna pick bang in the middle. So I think what I would actually probably start with, I love writing. I actually think I would just start with like a newsletter. Things that I love writing on are about like being like an early product hire at like startups, being in like the creators economy, being in the creator space. And so I actually think like I would love to just like write more about like my experiences. I think it's like a newsletter, then potentially transition that to some form of like membership or community. And then maybe I used to do like one-on-one like advisory calls and just like a course on like being like a first product hire. And so that's probably like I want to like upsell them into. And so that's how I've always thought about like a portfolio of just like writings on like musings on like product and like creator economy and things like that. So a little bit of both straddling the line, but I think that honestly, those are things that are fun for me. So that's how I would want to structure, like, I think like my like creator business if I was to have one as well.
Fun for you. That is like such a strong message that I hope everyone takes away. Do things that are fun for you, because if you want this to be sustainable, you got to love what you do. Like, you can't just do things just because you saw someone else do it. If it makes you like want to cry, like do the things that you enjoy. But I just find it so interesting that all three of you have got totally different paths. I love that. That's
every single answer we gave makes so much sense for each of our personalities.
Exactly. And that's why there is no one thing that creators are doing, unfortunately. It'd be so easy if it was, but we're not all cheap. We're all different, and we have different audiences, interests, things that we like. So that's where, you can make different things work for you. Couple of quick questions. One from Erica. Communities. I don't know whether to start mine as paid from the beginning or start as free, build to a certain number of members, then add a cost. Does Kajabi have any data or gut feelings about what is best? Any thoughts for Erica?
I was going to say I can take this one, but I'm curious to hear if Steph has any other thoughts. I think for me personally, I always think of like starting with what your audience actually wants and what your audience needs and how they value your content. I think there are certain industries you're in where it's actually helpful to start with a free community, get everyone in there, treat it as almost like a lead funnel, and then you upsell them into like higher ticket items. There are other cases where your industry is so niche that even having access to you is actually very highly valued. And so you want to charge from your communities like starting out. And so part of this is somewhat grounded in data, somewhat gut feelings, but it's a little bit about deciding like what's best for your audience and like your niche and what you're really selling. Because if something you're selling is really, really sort of like high value and really hard to get, you might want to consider charging for it. But if it's like the actual values in something that you can upsell them into, then you might want to consider starting with like a freer community.
Yeah, the part that I add into that when it comes to communities is it's not really based upon the size of the audience that you're trying to sell into the community either. I think that's a huge misconception that the bigger it is, like you can charge for it. I haven't really found that to be the case. What I will say is, to Tav's point, it's going to depend on what they get when they're in there. Like, do I think there would be a lot of success retaining someone even in like a $5 a month community just to be like, hey, here's everyone who loves cooking or loves chatting about dogs. Like if it's more generic, I think that's where it becomes really difficult to make it paid, because they could just get that elsewhere on like free Facebook groups that are global. One thing I would add with communities is don't assume that they're forever. I think we've seen some really big success with people selling into a community that lasts for like 6 to 12 weeks. Like a great example I saw was from someone in the parenting industry. I don't know if there's anybody who's in this right now who has ever potty trained a child, but there's a lot of the new way of doing that supposedly is to like do it in a lockdown window of like 3 to 5 days. So they will sell access to a community for like a week or two, where they might only have like a dozen or two like groups of parents in there, all potty training and trauma bonding together on that experience. And it will be so highly engaged for a few weeks, and they're paying to have access to others that they get to know and they share those stories with, as well as the creator and the expert to guide them along the way. So I think one thing with paid communities is you may even want to consider starting with one that is time bound so that you can test it out, see if folks find value in it, versus trying to go big with this concept of everybody in, everyone's paying me set amount forever and ever.
Oh, that's such a great point. Allie, you got any thoughts?
No, Steph nailed it.
Perfect. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Are you guys just able to answer 2 quick questions?
Yes.
All right. You got 7 seconds before our hour is up. Okay. Shane, my reasonable course in a cohort turns into a community membership. The idea is the cohort wakens them up to the power of the community. Oh, it's not a question. And they're more likely to stay and pay to remain with the people that they meet in the course. That is absolutely something that I've seen as a strategy. People will start as a course and then move people into that ongoing membership. So they'll learn something in the course, and then the membership is what helps them implement over time. Is that something that you guys are seeing as a model?
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that's like pretty evident. And like, I think it's just like the journey of like a member through like the different like product offerings that a creator might have or a hero might have.
Yeah. All right. Last question. I found the coaching feature, the community, the newsletter, all to be great, not perfect, but useful. So my question is how to combine these into a single experience product. Is the best user experience to link them all from inside a course? Now, I have thoughts on this, but I want to hear from you guys.
I'm
Given
actually
recent updates to community.
So personally, I've always looked at community as like the connective tissue across like the rest of the product. And Sue, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this as well. I think as we've made improvements to like the community's experience, we've always looked at it as the kind of like ground zero for how folks might interact, especially how your members might interact with like your product offerings, especially if you have multiple different product offerings. And you're not in a space where like some of your like information or like your content would be like sensitive. And so I actually think I always see communities as, again, like that connective tissue where you can like, you have everybody in a community, you're having them engage with each other, you're upselling them into sort of like different higher ticket offers that you might have. You're getting them to engage in other like different like member only like access like communities that might exist that are paid and things like that. So I actually think having a newsletter that sends updates anytime you publish it into a community, and then having a like coaching offer block in there that you can like upsell them into from the community feed where you're chatting about like the content that you post and like the offerings that you have. That's where community becomes, Erica has like called it out, like community as the hub. And so it's a little bit of that hub and spoke model. So that's actually how I think about like that perfect UX for like your members. And again, that's just one way to do it. There's a multitude, but at least that's one that I've seen in my experience be like a really sort of tried and true model.
Yeah, well, I've seen with the recent changes in Kajabi communities where you can add those custom links and then it opens things up within the community, it is so much of a nicer experience to direct people to your community and then use those custom links to have the course content newsletter just linked straight from there. So they're not opening another tab, it's just right within one tab. They're not going in and out of places and remembering to close things and open things. So that I think is a really fantastic improvement to have a central hub, because I definitely think you need to pick a place. If it's your course, make it your course and link everything out from the course. Use the sidebar, use the lessons to link to other things, but create one central product as the hub for all the other products if you have got that multi-faceted product, which, as we're going to talk with Jerome from Steph's team next week, is going to be sharing all the insights on those multi-product offers where it's not just one thing, because that is definitely another trend that we're seeing, which I didn't ask you about because we've got a whole session with Jerome. We're going to get nerdy and do analytics and look at numbers, and I can't wait for that. But yeah, that's my thoughts. I'm so glad that it aligns with you guys and what you are seeing. I just wanted to thank you all so much for taking some time out. I love having you guys here, Kajabi Dream Team. Thanks for spending time with me today and with all of us. And if you have missed this, if you're watching this on the replay and you have questions, please feel free to put them into the Fireside Chat community. I will make sure to pass them on to Allie and Steph and Tab, because it's always awesome getting insights straight from Kajabi. So, this is not, wonderings. This is directly from the team. So I just really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yay, and I will see you next week on the last Fireside Chat with Jerome. Information is going to come out. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye-bye.